News last night that Filip Kostic has rejected a potential move to West Ham United, and while the Hammers haven't quite given it all hope and they may just try one last time to persuade Kostic to move to the London Stadium, at this point in time it seems extremely unlikely that Kostic will be leaving the Bundesliga outfit to join David Moyes' side in the summer transfer window. Now, the situation as we know it was that yesterday there was a meeting held between Kostic himself and Alessandro Lucci, who is his agent, as well as the agent of Gianluca Scamacca. And from West Ham's perspective, the idea of that meeting was to get a little bit of clarity as to whether Kostic would be interested in a move to West Ham United. It appears that he's not. Now, this is obviously bad news, but I also think it can be good news, and it's also understandable news as well. But what we know is that West Ham had their initial bid rejected last week of around 15 million euros. Frankfurt looking for closer to 20 million euros. So they're not miles apart, the two clubs. So I've always felt there was like an aura of confidence between the clubs that a deal could be struck. And it didn't necessarily hinge on the transfer fee or the player being available. It simply hinged on whether Filip Kostic was willing or wanting to move to West Ham United during the transfer window, because he's obviously got Champions League football at Frankfurt next season. In 12 months' time, he can leave the Bundesliga side if he wishes on a free, secure that lucrative move elsewhere. He can start negotiating with clubs outside German football on the 1st of January if he wishes, including West Ham United. But also in the last couple of days, there's been some real big clubs competing in the Champions League linked to Kostic as well, notably Chelsea and most recently Juventus as well. But after the meeting between Lucci and Kostic, it appears that Kostic isn't too keen on the move to West Ham. However, the reports last night do suggest that West Ham may just try one last time to convince him to move to West Ham by tempting him with money, essentially, offering him a wage package that he doesn't currently have at Frankfurt, doubling and then some his wages of what he's currently on at Frankfurt to try and convince him to move to the London Stadium. But like I said, that's the understandable news part. There's obviously bad news, but I do think there's good news as well. But before we get onto the news part, just wish to quickly tell you about our player ratings notebook ahead of the new season. Over on Patreon, myself and Gonzo do a player ratings video after every single match where we go through the starting 11 and give them a score out of 10. That's not all we do. We discuss their performance a little bit in depth, if you like, and we just give a rating to summarise the performance at the end of it. And when we took our feedback from patrons in the summer, they said you should track your player ratings throughout the season, and at the end of it you'll obviously have your organic Hammer of the Year. So we wondered, what is the best way of doing that? Well, we've created what we think is the best way of doing that. It's just a simple little notebook, nothing too fancy. There it is, you fill it in as you go. So we brought out for, well, 3 reasons. A, so we can track it. B, we hope you guys get involved in our player rating series as well, so this will be perfect for you to do it at home. And C, probably most importantly, is those with little ones that you're trying to get into West Ham, or they're already into West Ham, you just want to educate them a little bit further. Increase that engagement between your child and the football team, pique their interest during the match if you like. We hope that this would be a really good engagement and educational tool. Now, you fancy picking one up, you can go to hammerschatstore.com. It's on there under the category Other. Click on there and you'll find the notebook. Or the link is in the description and the pinned comments as well. But if you fancy getting one, please do, because we've got bloody loads of them. I've ordered too many, but obviously the more you order, the cheaper it is. And we wanted to keep it, well, cheap as possible for people to buy. But in doing so, we had to order more. So if you want one, please get it, because I've got a lot to sell and the season's only a week away. But yes, link is in description. But shall we discuss the bad news? Let's start with the very obvious, shall we? Kostic is a great player. Simple as that. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I don't want him or never wanted him or anything like that. I mean, initially, when we got linked to him, I had serious reservations that he was going to be sort of the solution at left back, and I was a little bit worried because I thought, no, left wing back, absolutely, left wing, absolutely, but actually the left back, no. I wasn't convinced at all. There's very, very little evidence. In fact, I would argue there's more evidence to suggest he wouldn't make it at left back than there is to suggest he will. However, I found myself in the last week, especially with the friendlies occurring and our lack of creativity, which I'll get onto in a second, I found myself really sort of warming to the idea of him. And it's a player that I've admired for years. It's not like I don't know about him, I've never heard of him or anything like that. I knew what he could bring to West Ham. It's there for everybody to see. But I was still a little bit reluctant. However, like I said, he is a top player. What I will say about Kostic though, he walks in to our team. Does he improve squad depth? 100%. Does he improve our starting 11? I would argue yes. Only on some days though, and it depends what formation we play. But certainly we're going to be playing 3 at the back regularly. Then he would 100% start. I would argue there's more chance, if we sign Kostic today, I would argue there's more chance of Kostic starting against Manchester City than there is for Gianluca Scamacca. Because we don't have an alternative left wing back. We have players that can play left wing back, but none of them come close to how Kostic plays that role for Frankfurt. And I think this is the worst news, really. It's not the lack of creativity that we're seeing so far in pre-season and the second half of last season. Kostic would probably automatically be, as soon as we signed him, be our most creative player probably. And we are crying out for somebody that can do that from open play. We know his crossing's fantastic. We know his passing is brilliant. Kostic would almost not be the solution to our lack of creativity, but he would certainly help it massively. And there is absolutely no doubt about that. And we're crying out for creativity. But the biggest sort of negative with us not getting Kostic is that 3 at the back thing. We seen it yesterday against Lens, and I think it's fair to suggest that we will see it against Manchester City. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to play it in every single game. I would expect us to switch back to 4 at the back for Nottingham Forest. However, Kostic would just allow us that option to switch between a 3 and a 4 week in, week out. And if he's on the pitch playing left wing, Creswell's left back, we can switch it during the game where Creswell slips into that back 3, Kostic moves to left wing back. Having him on the pitch just allows Moyes to use his tactics and switch formation during the game if he wants to, without having to make a substitution. And this is what worries me about us not getting Kostic. Well, what are we going to do with this wing back role next season on the left? Because I would argue that if you're going to play wing backs, they're your most important players in that formation. They have to defend, but they have to also offer something going forward. Now, I think Soufal's a solid right wing back. Is he the best in the league? No, he's nowhere near the likes of Reece James, but he's solid enough, and I think that's fine, providing the guy on the left is just as solid. And this is my problem: he won't be, and it doesn't matter who it is. Looking at our squad right now, it doesn't matter who it is. We've seen Masuaku racking up the minutes in pre-season in that position. That worries me a little bit because he's just not up to it. He hasn't even looked up to it in pre-season. The thought of Kyle Walker running at him next Sunday terrifies me a little bit. So it can't be him. Fornals, we've seen Moyes use Fornals there quite a lot, and there's been a couple of games it has worked. Most notably Wolves at home last season. Man City at home right at the death as well. Played well in that game, so he can play there. But there's also other games he's played there in either being poor, or there's been games where half of us think he's played there and the other half of us don't even think he was playing wing back. We couldn't even tell if Fornals was a wing back or not, and that can't be good. We don't know what his role is. By us all watching the same game, we've all got different opinions as to the role Fornals was trying to do. Now, I think part of that is because I think it's a bit of a hybrid. I think some games we've seen him play when we're defending, he goes wing back, and when we go forward, he almost turns into a winger, if you like, and has to get up the pitch quicker and infield a little bit more than what Soufal would be doing on the right hand side. But I don't think it can be Fornals. The long term solution in that wing back role just can't be Pablo Fornals. When we signed Saeed Benrahma, I remember Gonzo sort of wondering if he was going to be the solution at wing back, and I know you're going to laugh, I did, but David Moyes himself spoke about it before, but we've never seen him play there, thankfully, and I don't want him to. Now that leaves Ben Johnson. I mean, it does also leave Aaron Creswell, but we've not seen him play there because he's always had that left centre-back role. There is obviously a possibility that we could play Dawson, Zuma and Johnson at the back and put Creswell wing-back. That's probably my preference at the minute. But with Ben Johnson playing wing-back, I mean, he's played well there before. Defensively, absolutely solid. It's just going forward, he's really, really lacking. And like I said, when you play wing-backs, I think there's a lot of emphasis on both of them to provide in that final third. They're the width of your team, and you need them both to be able to put in good crosses and to create from out wide if necessary. And I just don't think you get that with Ben Johnson. But Kostic, you absolutely would. He would walk in to that West Ham starting 11, and that left wing-back role would be his. And while I said Soufal isn't up there with the best of them in the Premier League at right wing-back, left wing-back, I think Kostic, if he plays like he does for Frankfurt, he would be up there with the best of them in the Premier League, and that's what we're going to be missing. Not getting Filip Kostic, we're going to be missing somebody that just nails down that spot in the starting 11. And like I said, it worries me a little bit. What are we going to do now? What is Plan B? Well, we've been told what Plan B is, and that's of course assuming it's true. But the last bad news I'm going to say on this before I move on to the one or two bits, it's not as good news as bad news, but the last bad news is I feel, and this is of course if all the reports are true and hypothetical and whatnot, I feel that this was probably the only player we could sign before the Man City game and will play in the Man City game. I've got a feeling that anybody we sign this week, whether it be Tuesday, Wednesday, we probably won't see them. They might make the bench, but that would be it at best. I just feel that Kostic was that sort of final player that we might have just been able to purchase, and then we'll see him start next Sunday. I don't really get that vibes with anyone else. Unless, of course, the club have been working on a couple of deals in the background that we're unaware of. And fingers crossed that we've got another Flynn Down situation on our hands. But I'm not too confident nor optimistic, if I'm honest with you. And that's a little bit of a worry. But, like I said, the biggest one is I feel Kostic is almost key to us playing three at the back. So, what's the good news then? Well, first of all, we can move on very, very quickly. I know there is some reports that West Ham are going to make one last attempt to sort of persuade him and drag him to the London Stadium, if you like. But we can now move on. We can go on to our next target. Now, that's believed to be Maxwell Cornet of Burnley. And I guess the good news for that is he's still available. Wasn't involved for Burnley on Friday night because he's expected to leave Turf Moor. So a bit like Kostic, I guess, he's available and the club are willing to negotiate with anyone. Now, he's obviously got his minimum fee release clause of $17.5 million. However, you've got to pay that up front. I'd imagine someone like West Ham would probably be a bit more inclined to have it paid over in instalments. So there needs to be a little bit of a sweetener for Burnley. So that might be just making the fee a little bit more than the $17.5 million. But he's certainly there to be got. And if we have been provided clarity from Filip Kostic that this ain't happening, then I expect us to move pretty quickly. Mark Dunn left a really good comment on a video the other day, and I always listen to him now because when I did my unpopular video series a couple of seasons ago, he said that David Moyes would take West Ham back to European football, and I'll be honest, I laughed. I brought it up on the screen and I mocked it. But anyway, he made a very valid point in the other video, which was he almost gets the impression we're going to have to 2 players per position and we're going to try and take them both to the wire. Then David Moyes is going to pick what one he wants. And obviously he was referring to the fact that we had Gianluca Scamacca and Armando Broja on the go at the same time, and that we had it believed to have had Zielinski and Amadou Onana on the go at the same time, and that possibly we've got Kostic and Maxwell Cornet on the go at the same time. Now, if that's true, if Mark's sort of theory is true, and I think it is, there's evidence there, or certainly that depends on if you believe the reports, then perhaps and hopefully West Ham have got some form of negotiations with Burnley already going. Because like I said, this is no surprise. That's the one thing I will say. Kostic not coming to us is no surprise. It's been in the media for the last few days that he's reluctant to leave Frankfurt because of the Champions League football and the potential lucrative contract he can get in 12 months' time. So it's no surprise whatsoever. And that, in a weird way, can be good news. The last thing I'm going to say that is possibly good news, and this is a very personal preference here. I much prefer us playing 4 at the back. I just feel like we haven't quite nailed down the 3 at the back thing last season. There was games it works, and there will be games this season it works. And I think Kostic would be key for that flexibility. But not if we had Kostic, I feel we would have seen the 3 at the back a little bit more than often next season, because his best position is that left wing back role. But without him, I don't know, I've just got a feeling we might see 4 at the back again. But of course it depends who we bring in. The thing with Maxwell Cornet is he's got a lot more experience as an actual left back than what Kostic does. I do think his game's better when he's played further up the pitch, but he does actually have experience for Lyon there. I remember seeing him play against Manchester City in the Champions League as a left back, and he's not the best, but at least he's got a little bit of experience. And like I said, I've just got this nagging doubt that we are not going to sign an actual left back this summer, and then it might be someone like Kostic or Cornet who can sort of play there if necessary. And out the two of them, I think I'd rather Cornet playing at left back. At playing left wing back, it would probably be Filip Kostic. But like I said, I think the one good news of our hand being forced here is that it might just give us a better alternative at left back than what Kostic would have provided. But overall, bad news, of course it is, especially if it is sort of somebody that David Moyes really, really wants. And it's a bit of a blow to our transfer dominoes, if you want to call it that. Because like I said, I do feel like our summer, we've got our targets aimed up. You get one, you move on to the next one. So the domino needs to fall in order for you to move on. We've got the striker in now. Now it feels like it's a case of, right, let's get this left-hand sided player sorted out. And it looks like it's not going to be Kostic, but it might be Maxwell Cornet. There's still another couple of players out there that would be really, really good solutions or alternatives to him as well. But I just hope that if we do make one last attempt, fine. But that's all. Let's not drag out. However, this summer, what I will say, we haven't had Dithering Dave. We've had Decisive Dave. And I like it. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video too, please do drop a like, comment, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Tomorrow we've got a massive Patreon offer coming. So if you're debating about Patreon or you just want to hear about the offer, please come back tomorrow. This week we've got our season previews coming up. We've got our Manchester City match previews coming up. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. It's good to have that content back. I thoroughly enjoy recording it. And please remember, if you fancy getting yourself one of these, do check it out. Links in description, the pinned comments, or go to hammerschatstore.com. Catch you tomorrow.